For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Kiana Corley. How's it going today, Kiana?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. You know, it's Texas, so we're kind of in that bipolar time of the month where I woke up this morning and it was like 20 degrees, and now I just went outside about an hour ago before it got dark, and it's like, oh, it's not 20 degrees anymore. That's interesting. So,
Well,
but then we're gonna get snow this weekend. So who knows what this weather's doing anymore? But
that's that's Pennsylvania too, just
yeah,
all the time. Nobody knows how to dress or how to just like be because the
yeah,
weather's just all over the place.
yeah. I got you. So, first off, before we kind of jump into everything, I want to thank you so much for giving us the time to sit down and chat. I'm really excited to learn more about Lukewarm, the upcoming EP, and just everything you got going on. So I'm really excited to sit down and chat with you a little bit. But before we get into all that, for the people that are just getting introduced to you, that are just learning about you, what's kind of your background? What got you into music?
Um, so my mom plays piano professionally, and we just always grew up with like old school, like mostly soul and like rock in the
Mhm.
house, and I would do musicals. It was just always like a part of my life. Like my mom tried to, she never like forced anything on me,
Mm.
because she was a musician, but she never was like, you have to do this. Like she was like, okay, if this chooses you, then go for it. But if not, like, that's fine. Um, but I just did all of it for fun, and I never really, took anything really seriously until I was 16 and I was taking voice lessons. And my teacher at the time was like, okay, like I wasn't the best with like practicing.
Mhm.
And she was like, you can take this seriously, or we can just goof around and you can basically just waste your mom's money. And I was like, okay. I'll take it seriously. And I don't know, something about that conversation just really helped me get my butt in gear. And I just fell more in love with it. And I wanted to learn more about like playing different instruments and stuff too. Also, the game Rock Band helped,
Yeah,
which is weird because it's a
yeah,
game.
yeah.
But I was just like, oh, this is fun. I want to learn how to actually play the guitar, not just press buttons. So it's a bunch of things that like got me super serious about it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I wish my mom would have had that conversation with me because I remember when, as you were saying that, I remember in fourth grade, I tried out for like concert band or whatever,
Mhm.
and they were just kind of like, okay, everybody made it, woohoo,
Yeah.
and I was there for like 3 months, and my mom came to me. She's like, you've been in this band for 3 months. You can't play a note. You're not taking practice seriously. So we're gonna go return this. I was playing the trumpet, and they were like, "We're gonna go return the trumpet," and then that's just kind of it. And I'm like, "Okay, so does that mean I don't have to get up an hour early every morning to go to band practice?" She's like, "Yeah, that's kind of what it means." I'm like, "Cool," and that was
Cool.
that was the end of it. But then again, you're in fourth grade. You don't really, yeah. So
Hmm.
I completely get it. So who are some of your musical influences?
There's so many, but I love Corinne Bailey Rae. I love her so much. Like her self-titled album is my favorite album still ever. I love Leanne LaHavis. I love Stevie Wonder. I love. Right now I'm into her a lot,
Mm,
like Her.
yeah,
Who else? Tori Kelly is a big one, and I've always loved India Arie and yeah, just a lot actually. Those are, I mean, I listen to like a lot of artists, but those are
mhm,
the ones that I like tend to draw inspiration from when it comes to like my own art.
gotcha.
Um,
What do you think it is about them that helps inspire you as an artist?
um, just like the soulful acoustic thing has always just like resonated with me.
Hmm.
Like, it's like very like soul infused, but also kind of like folky because it like tells a story. And yeah, I've just always loved artists that like are just super vulnerable,
Hmm.
and I've been getting better with that when it comes to my own songwriting because like me as a person, I'm not gonna just like spill like my life and my thoughts and my feelings to you like when I first meet you. It's gonna take me a bit, but like if you come to my performances, you might know a lot about me and
Yeah.
like that's fine, even though I don't know your name. Like and that's just how performing goes. But like I've always the artists that like I've grown up with that have really resonated with me are the people that are just like okay, like here are my raw feelings set to like a chord progression, and I've just really loved that. So those are the I think those artists that I mentioned are the ones that tend to do that. So
Gotcha. And were these artists some of the people you were listening to when you were first starting to take music seriously as you were developing who you wanted to be as a musician?
um those artists are definitely I mean my I've always listened to Stevie Wonder just by like association. Like my mom just always played him and
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
Earth, Wind and Fire and like all those old, amazing, incredible, iconic bands and a lot of Queen too. She loves Queen. Um but I like always listened to them and I never really like appreciated them as much as I did until I like really started to like love and like get into like music and learning more about like music.
Hmm.
Um, Also Corinne Bailey, yeah, Corinne and like artists like that I definitely didn't really get super into and like want to like completely dissect their music until I started getting more serious about things. I listened to a lot of like Disney Channel artists when I was a kid, but like I wouldn't
Yeah.
really count that. Not okay, not that I wouldn't, not that they don't, make great
Yeah.
things, but yeah.
I got you. I completely get you. Um, as far as you creatively, like before we jump into lukewarm and all that stuff, what's kind of your creative process as a musician when you sit down to write a song? Like, what's kind of your process?
Um, it It really it depends, but what I mostly do is I'll have like a melody kind of like pop in my head, and maybe it'll be influenced by like a song I'm listening to or something. And then I'll record it. If I'm not home, like by my piano, then I'll just record it on my little voice notes app on my phone, and
Yeah.
then I'll like when I come home, then I'll like come back to it. I'm like, okay, like what goes underneath this? Um, or sometimes I'll like write the lyrics first. Like I'll just write random phrases
Mm-hmm.
or just like things that seem like poems or just like lyrics themselves, and then I'll make music underneath that.
Hmm.
um yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really have
A
like
set
this is
process.
yeah, I don't have a set in stone process of writing songs. I think it's just kind of like what comes to me first.
Gotcha.
um
So
yeah.
is it fair to say you're more free flowing with the creative process? Like just whenever it hits you? Because it's always interesting to kind of talk to different musicians, and I think it has to do with more where they're at in their lives as far as are they married, do they have kids, like all these different factors. But it's always interesting to sit there and kind of talk through the process because some people have to be very diligent and militant with their time. Like, okay, the kids are down, I have an hour to be creative, just that
Mhm.
kind of sort of thing. Or, oh, I'm driving down the freeway and a red Corvette popped into my head, just like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be a song about something completely different. But it's always kind of interesting to see what the process is and where musicians kind of draw influence from. So
Yeah, no, because it's so different for everybody.
yeah.
Like some songs will take me months to write, and others will take me like 20 minutes. So I
Gotcha.
think it just also depends on like, the cert like, what's going on in my life at the time, or like you
Mhm.
said, like external factors, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of transitioning into lukewarm, how long did that song take you to write?
It was one of my shortest like processes actually.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was having one of those days where I was just like running around And like when I have those days, I tend to drink more coffee than like I should. And
Mm.
so I was like, I just remember like everything was just like heightened. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so like creatively focused because I had so much caffeine. And I got home and I remember wanting like needing to do something, but then I was literally drinking a cup of lukewarm coffee, and then the first line like popped into my head, like, or I was like lukewarm coffee in the morning, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna write,
Mm.
right now because I didn't want the line to go away. So I just like wrote it down, and then I just kept writing, and then I like finished the song
Mhm.
in like 20 minutes or 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and I mean. What I wrote wasn't the final version of the song. Like I went back after a couple days. Usually, whenever that happens, I never trust it like
Mhm.
entirely.
Yeah.
So I remember just like sitting on it for like a week, and then
Yeah.
I went back and I was like, okay, I'm gonna change this lyric. This, this isn't, So it wasn't like the final version that day, but like I finished that song in a couple minutes, which usually like happens sometimes, but like a lot of songs take way longer than that for me
Yeah.
sometimes.
Okay. So when you were like for lukewarm specifically, just so we're kind of um, talking about a particular song, when you were so you were writing, working out the lyrics. When you got to the point where you were ready to start putting instrumentation to it, do you usually go to what instrument do you usually go to, or what did you go to? Do you go to the piano? Do you go to the guitar? Where do you usually go?
That one I went to the guitar.
Okay.
I think I'm like forcing myself to use the piano a little bit more because it didn't come that naturally to me.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so but during when I wrote it, I grabbed my guitar and I just kind of like funked out some chords. But lately I have been using the piano for just like backing things, just so I can like get better at it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha. And then so how long's the lukewarm kind of been in the ether of a how long have you been working on that song?
It was, I want to say like at least a year I wrote that
Okay.
song, and then um yeah, I made the demo and I sent it to my friends to like play their instruments on it. And but yeah, that whole process, I think, from like the culmination of it to like where it became was like a little over a year, just because I want to say a year and a half. I think it would have been shorter if like COVID wasn't a thing, because we were like, oh, let's get in the studio. Oh, just kidding,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it's been sitting for a bit, yeah.
Gotcha. I was gonna ask how COVID kind since it's been over a year, how did COVID kind of affect the release strategy? Um, but why did you kind of choose that single to be the to be released right now? Like, uh,
Um, I mean, it's just I don't know. I kind of just felt really strongly about it.
mhm,
Like it it's not like super upbeat or anything like
mhm,
that, but it has like a kind of like a nice little like bounce to it, and I
mhm.
just feel like I mean, not obviously not all, singles have to be like upbeat,
Yeah,
dancey pop,
yeah,
but I was just thinking, okay, like even though the words aren't like, they're not like super sad words, but they're also not super happy words. Even though they're not like, they're not the happiest words, still the music underneath is like, nice and light, and hopefully it'll make people feel good right now. I just, want to make people feel good right
yeah.
now with like everything going on. Um, yeah, I just picked it because I thought that it would be like it's like just happy sounding, and hopefully would like lift some spirits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. It definitely I was listening to it and for whatever reason I didn't realize that it was the same song. It was playing over and over again.
Oh,
I had it on Spotify, so I just had it like on the sync, like how you can just kind of pick it as the single and then it'll just kind of rotate. And so I'm
yeah.
just sitting there listening to it. I'm doing some dishes or something. And then I realized like 15 minutes had passed and the song is just going over and over again. Okay, well, obviously, I'm not sick of this song, so
Aw.
because it's just but it was a really good song. I really enjoyed it.
Aw,
Um,
thank you.
so you are. releasing a music video for this single, which you
Mhm.
it looks like just kind of going through your like YouTube and stuff. It looks like you do you pretty consistently release music videos with your singles.
I've definitely been trying to make it a habit. Which again, with like how everything is, I don't know how I can, keep up with that. Hopefully, like in the future, I'll be able to like do that more easily. But
Yeah.
yeah, I try to like I want to really release like something visual with each of my singles, just because I don't know, it's I really like creating. Like my
Hmm.
friend that filmed it, and she also directed it. I mean, the idea and the concept of the music video was mine, but like she really helped direct it and stuff. But it was really cool to like just be a part of that creative process for this song that I wrote. I just, I like creating ideas. I
Yeah.
like creating. So I'm just like, yeah, like let's just make videos.
Yeah. That's
With my
that's
single,
really
why not? Yeah.
yeah, especially like right now during the pandemic, it's like really important because you're not getting out to do shows, and it's kind of like that weird catch 22 where it's like you can't really go out to produce videos, but you really need those videos because it like really helps draw attention and what have you.
Yeah, it's crazy right now. We're all adapting, I think the best that we can.
Hmm.
I think, you know, like those in the music industry that, have a little bit more of a financial cushion can do a little bit
Yeah,
better than those, which is unfortunate, but um I've definitely considered myself blessed to be able to like make these things, and like still pay people like um, you know, what they charge and stuff. And but it's definitely rough,
yeah,
because people like, well, I think still, I mean, social media is incredible when it
hmm,
comes to like being a musician and an artist in general, as far as exposure, especially like TikTok and all these new things.
yeah.
But like live music is also like probably like the tried and true way to connect with people, and
Oh,
that's just gone,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And
When
it's
you
just like, well, what do you do?
Yeah, when you take out that because like, I mean, live shows are really that lifeline for musicians, like, especially on the independent level,
Yeah.
95% of the musicians say that live shows is how they make their money to fund their next project, to fund their next album, to fund their like, whatever it is they're trying to fund, and it's just like man, I don't know how some of them make it work, but um, on that level, have you done any experimenting with the like virtual shows? Has that kind of been a thing for you, or
Yeah, I tried well, yeah, I definitely did a couple, I think towards like the beginning of the pandemic
yeah?
that's been happening for a year. Yeah, towards the beginning of things, I definitely kind of like did the live stream thing,
Hmm.
which is cool. Like, I would live stream with like friends or even
Yeah,
just like people that I've like connected through like TikTok and things like that.
yeah,
Like we would just like do like the whole live stream thing through like Instagram, how you can just like split,
hmm,
which that's a challenge because of the latency.
yeah.
Like sometimes like my I remember my one friend was like, "Oh, I'll like play chords and you can sing over me." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "You just got to ignore me. Like you just have to ignore that I'm like a whole beat behind you." And I'm like, "Okay." And
That's I would never be able to do. Like just thinking about that, like knowing how ADD my brain is,
yeah,
it's just like
yeah.
no, I couldn't do it. There's no way. Like just think where where he's going to be while you're hearing where he's currently at. That's
It was the most I've ever concentrated on anything in my life. Like, it was fun, and people said that it was working, and I'm like, okay, I just gotta just ignore you basically. So I've done, yeah, we did that, and then I've done a couple live streams, and I think things have slowed down a little bit with that
mhm.
um, since then. But yeah, no, I definitely have done a couple, and they've been fun.
Yeah,
It's been really cool. It's kind of like even more scary. I don't know
yeah.
why. Like I'd rather
Well,
see people's faces,
yeah.
honestly.
Well, because I think what it is you're not getting that just automatic feedback. Like even like I mean, you are to a degree because it's like people are writing in the comments like, "Oh, yay, we love you," like whatever it is. but there's an energy when you're there in person where you could just kind of feel that energy. They may not be saying anything, but you could feel it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, so you're playing or whatever, and it's like, okay, we're done. I just kind of put myself out there, and there's response coming back, but I've got to kind of like bring myself out of myself to interact, which is
Mhm.
really weird, and
It's weird.
it's got to be a mood killer at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess just a different frame of mind that you have to have. But yeah, it's weird because you're just like, I don't know if they actually like this or not because they're just not here, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I got you. Um, so so lukewarm that released back in January, middle of January, right?
January
Uh,
15th.
and then you got the music video coming out next week.
Hmm.
Um, what's the plan afterwards? I know you're working on an EP, right?
Yeah, I'm working on an EP. Lukewarm's gonna be a part of 5-track EP.
Okay.
Hmm.
Where are you kind of at in the process? Is everything recorded? Like, where are you kind of at in the process?
Everything is basically done
Oh,
actually. Yeah,
nice.
so it should be out like pretty soon.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Is what went into the, not saying like all what's on there, but what went into the song selection process? Did you write specifically for the EP, or was it kind of like, oh hey, I've got 5 songs, 6 songs, like whatever it was that kind of go together? What was kind of the process?
It was more of the second thing. Yeah, some of those songs, like some of those songs are like about as old as Lukewarm, and some of them have been around for like like not like years,
Yeah.
like but some of them are older, and I found them, and I'm like, oh, I should like release this. And I do kind of try to like I did kind of try to like have them in a central theme.
Mhm.
But yeah, though they're definitely written throughout like different like stages of like my life. Um, so, but yeah, I just
Nice.
kind of put them together.
Gotcha. And then as far as like release, are you doing it just digitally? Or are you looking at like hard copies, vinyl, CD, anything like that?
Um, as far as I know, it's gonna just be digital. Maybe in
Mm.
the future it'll be through CDs. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, definitely digitally for sure.
gotcha, gotcha. So you got that coming out, and as the time comes closer, I'm sure you'll put it out on your social media to let people know when. But outside of music, what's kind of your thing? What do you do to kind of escape the day-to-day life of being a musician?
Whenever people ask me this, I always have to think so hard because I'm just like, what else do I do? But I yeah, so right now, I mean, I like to go on runs sometimes. It's kind of cold, so I don't really do it that much anymore. But I wouldn't even say I'm like a fitness buff or anything because I'm
Yeah.
definitely not like, but I'm really into like, running and like yoga and stuff like that. Um, I'm a voice teacher, so that's like music related. But
Mm.
when I'm not teaching voice, then I make coffee on the weekends, and
Nice.
that's really fun.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely love making drinks for people.
Yeah.
Like it's just really fun. Um, and
So do you have like the French press and like all the different cool things to make coffee different ways and stuff like that?
um, we don't have French press at my store. I wish we
Yeah.
did. I have a French press like in my house. Like I love coffee.
Yeah.
I love like I'm not a coffee snob, but like
Yeah.
I love like good coffee. So I'm like, oh yeah, French press. Let's do this. Let's do that. Um, but yeah, we don't have one in my shop, but we should have one.
Gotcha. Yeah, I there was when I was living in New Mexico, there was a coffee shop where they'd have like all the different beans, like Brazilian, just like all sorts of things. And I just
Hmm.
always remember there was this one guy there that was like, "Well, this is a fresh 2017 Brazilian bean. It wasn't really a good year, just like knew everything about everything." And it's like, I just want a iced
Yeah.
latte, dude. I don't really like that's cool, but just make my iced latte, I'm good. Like,
No.
give me those caffeine jitters, I'm good. So,
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you everything in
yeah,
detail about like different beans
yeah,
either. I could tell you more, like I could tell you like, oh, like regular espresso versus like blonde roast
Yeah.
espresso and all that stuff. But like I would, I'm not like that.
Yeah.
It's so
No,
funny.
well, and I think that's kind of what he went to school for. Like
Mhm.
that's he went and studied coffee. He went to specific classes to learn about the different beans and just like every little thing and
Wait,
everything.
he went to school like for coffee?
That's what he said. Like, I don't know, but that's what he said. That was always his story, but he had a tendency to be a pathological liar. So,
Okay, I was
yeah,
gonna say like, what kind of school is a
I don't know.
coffee
I
major?
don't know. I don't know.
That's
Like
incredible.
it's kind of that thing where it's like I like to believe everybody's telling me the truth, but when somebody tells me somebody's a pathological liar, it's just kind of like,
Mhm.
eh,
Mm,
where's that
yeah,
line falling?
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, so do you see? You said your mom's a professional piano player. Is there a ever thought of you and your mom doing like a duet or a song together?
Um, Maybe.
Mm,
Honestly, I feel like we should like record something together, like maybe a cover of something or like a song or something.
yeah,
Um, yeah, we've done stuff like together in the past. I think just because like, she's my mom. Like when I was growing up, it was always like because she would work with like vocalists all the time and she still does. But we would like rehearse and then she'd be like, hey, you should like do this differently, and like that's a normal criticism, but because she's my mom, I was just like, oh my god. And like once I got older, I kind of got a little better. But yeah, so we didn't really like do a lot of things together until like a couple years ago.
mm,
um and I love doing things with her. Like it's really cool that like she's my mom and we can just do things together.
yeah.
So yeah, I would be okay with like doing something with her for sure.
That'd be really cool. I'm sure it'd mean a lot to her as well down the line. Just kind of like, oh, hey, it's something we did together because it's like something you have in common and
Yeah.
kind of bonded over. Um, so that'd be really cool. So kind of walking towards the end of the interview here, have you given thought to doing like a full length at all, like a full length LP, or is it just kind of singles and EPs right now?
I'm definitely right now playing the singles
Okay.
thing, and like occasional EP thing.
Mhm.
I think until like I can grow a little bit more as an artist. And then down the line, I definitely want to release an album. Like I definitely want to release one, like
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
And because I've never been a person that like write songs for a project. Like I've always written songs and then I'm like, okay, these should like be in a project.
Yeah.
And I would love to like write a concept album. Like I would love to do that. So that's a goal of mine. Like when I make an album, I want to do it like, I mean, you can't do everything perfectly, but I want to do it as perfectly as possible because,
Yeah.
so down
They're
the line
expensive
sorry.
because they're expensive. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. A big commitment for sure.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I can like, that it'll like, do relatively well.
Mhm.
And yeah, but definitely in the future, I would love to make an album. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then as far as like when there isn't a global pandemic going on, how often are you usually out playing live shows?
Pretty regularly.
Mm,
That's like the number one thing that I miss. I miss that, and I miss just getting together with a bunch of musicians that I either know well or don't know well and just like making things.
yeah.
Like there's so much that I miss about it. But yeah, I was performing pretty regularly to the point where like I like regularly asked for, I was like, can you just not schedule me for weekends? Like it's
Yeah.
not like, and I felt bad doing that because usually people would do that, and I mean, you can do whatever you want obviously, but like people that like do that are just like, yeah, I just don't feel like working on like a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like I literally can't work on a Saturday because
Yeah.
I'm always in
Yeah.
this
Always.
bar or I'm like in this concert hall or I'm doing this thing with like I loved it. It was so great.
Mhm.
So I hope that can just happen again soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Like I've it's one of those things because it's so bizarre. Like I remember back in March when everything first kind of happened, it was like, oh well, we still got gigs in May and June that we're hoping to hit, and it's like almost a year later, and it's like
Mhm.
we're still hoping for May or June, but of
Mm,
2021, and it's like I don't even know. Like I mean, here in Texas, there are shows happening, so that's
yeah.
kind of cool, but it's so hit or miss. Like it's just like I always say it, but like one weekend I'll get a or an email saying, "Hey, here are all the shows," and then I won't get another email for 4 or 5 weeks, and it's just like, so are we just not promoting shows as regularly as we do, or like what's going on here? And nobody could ever give me a straight answer, so it's just kind of like, all right, I'll keep a lookout for myself.
Yeah.
So
It's so sad.
yeah.
I uh had my last like performance, I think sometime like last, like before things shut down, like
Hmm.
last February, I want to say. Um and but then this past May, like when the cases kind of like dipped at their lowest,
Yeah.
and like some things were, like the laws in Pennsylvania, like they're not like super super strict, but they've always been more like on the stricter side, I guess.
Yeah.
So during that time, we do this thing every year called like the launch. Well, not we. Like Lancaster does this thing called every year called like the Launch Music Festival,
Hmm.
and it's like a conference. And this past year, like the conference itself was like virtual, but the performances were in Clippers Stadium, which is like just a really big stadium where people, they play baseball and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So like big, massive open stadium, and they were approved for like 10% capacity,
Oh well.
and like very few amount. Like when they originally approved all the bands that submitted, they had to end up cutting like more than half of those bands afterwards just because of like capacity, and it was the worst. But like me and my band fortunately got to play,
Hmm.
and it was so great. Like it was just, I almost cried because I was like, wow, I miss this so much.
Yeah.
Even though it was weird because everybody was just like, okay, like you can't be here, and like you have to wear masks, and you have to
Yeah.
stay, like all that stuff. And um it was still really great, but that was the last time that I played live, and everything else has just been so like crazy restricted, or just a live stream, or just
Yeah, I gotcha. Have you how often do you and the band get a chance to practice now during the pandemic or
Not that often. I'm actually meeting with them soon for the first
hmm
time in a while because I want to try and film some live sessions.
hmm
So I will be meeting with them in like about 2 days for the
Okay.
first time since May, I want to say,
Oh wow.
honestly.
Okay.
Uh, so I mean, we've kept in touch and stuff, but like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
I
um it's sad because I would be like practicing with them regularly, and now I'm not. So.
yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha. Have you is there any so are you just pretty much playing like as you yourself, are you doing like solo stuff or what's
Yeah, so when I would do shows, and even like now, I
hmm
mean more so now I do solo things, but um I, I played solo for I've been like doing gigs since I was about like 18, just like,
hmm
sporadically, not like I wasn't doing them super regularly until I graduated school.
hmm
Um but I would always do it by myself, and then I met my friends in school,
hmm
and then they like started to like like play my music alongside me, and it was so cool because like these songs, like I didn't have to play my guitar anymore, I
yeah,
could just kind of dance around, and
yeah,
like never really done that before. So but my like original thing was always to just like play by myself with my guitar, so that's I still really like doing that.
gotcha, gotcha. That's really cool. So, if anybody wants to check you out online or listen to your music or any of that fun stuff, where's the best place for them to do that?
Instagram is probably where I'm the most active. You can also follow me on TikTok because I'm making myself be more active on
Nice.
there. I'm like making goals to like be more active. Also Spotify. You can
Hmm.
find me under my name, Kiana Corley, on Spotify if you want to follow me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Are you on Clubhouse at all? That's the new thing I'm starting to dive into a little bit.
I need to, yeah, I need to get on Clubhouse.
Yeah. It like the only thing is there's just not much activity on it right now as far as like music goes. Like
Mhm.
maybe twice a week I'll get an alert saying, "Hey, they're hosting this or they're hosting that." And unless you're like just really a self-starter and can do something like that yourself, which would be kind of interesting, but I'm still trying to figure it all out at the moment.
Yeah. No, I would love to like to get on something before it like blows up because I'm never that person.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I should definitely get on that for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting like, but my only concern, not to go too off into the weeds, is that it's gonna end up kind of like Snapchat did,
Mm,
or like where oh, it's this big cool thing, and then everybody else is like, oh, we can put that feature on our already pre-existing app, that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But other than that, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute blast sitting here and chatting with you. So I can't wait to do it again. You're welcome back anytime.
oh,
Uh,
thank you.
Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep, we are good.
Awesome.
All right.